Thank you.
Wow, that was really loud. All right, so today we're going to be working on choosing comps for our CMAs. And again, this is my philosophy on it. This is not the only way to do it. And everybody has different opinions on what should be used, what shouldn't be used. And again, as I was talking to Karen earlier, the way I look at it is if a bank is going to appraise the property. So that's just kind of the way I'm going at it. You want to join us? You gonna?
Yeah, I'm gonna see if you do things different than I do.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I'll
I just wanted to get you a chair if you wanted to. Okay, no problem. All right, so I didn't have a chance because I didn't even get home last night until about 11. So I printed my notes for you. I didn't have a chance to make them really pretty here. But so this is kind of how I go from beginning to end. And then we'll have some discussion on, why we would choose stuff, why wouldn't we choose things to look out for. So when I get a call on a property, the very first thing I do is I go to the realist to get the information. Okay, so I'll pop on here and we'll use the listing appointment that I went to last night as a. Give me. You can tell me what you guys think it'd be worth because the owner had some ideas. So the address is 8 Henry. I think it's Circle. Was it Circle or
Yeah, I think so.
Court? Yeah, it was Circle. There it is. One of them was Court, one of them was Circle. It's like right there.
Oh, so it's gotta be next door to the one I get. Is it right next door?
Well, maybe 13.
I don't remember.
This is engaged.
No.
Yeah, they're talking
it's
about
not.
his
Yeah,
listing.
yeah.
Okay, so 8 Henry Circle, this is engaged, it's 3 bed, 1 bath. He bought it at 99 for 70 grand. Again, I'm just looking for a bunch of detailed information. Year built 1957. I always see if it's owner occupied or, if they're trying to slip one past somebody and they've got a mailing address someplace else, because those are all, and also it says whoever's going to be on the deed here too. So now going in, the question that's on the contract, is there anybody else that has decision making over this? Even if they're not listed here, because some people might have like tenancy and stuff like that. So you still have to ask those questions. School district, that's going to be important to what we're looking at. And there's just a lot of other data on here that I like I always jot notes down when I go through this. Frontage, size, attached garages, detached outbuildings, all make note of all those things. House style is important, and building square footage. Okay, so those are the key factors that you're going to need. So I always like to have this thing ready. That's why in my office I have the big widescreen, because I'll have it up on one side and then I'll have the MLS up on the other. So just have this so we can get back to it handy here. All right, so we've got that ready to go. So then I like to go into the MLS and I like to see if it's been listed ever before, because then I can see, borrow from the listing, what was the house like when the guy bought it? What information is out there? Maybe it'll say something about the age of the roof or something of that nature. So I always like to creep on old listings. So it doesn't mean that it will be on there because this only goes back to 2001. So it hasn't been on the MLS in the last 22 years. So
And it would have been on the
and it'll show you right here in the tax record. And I know it was 99 because I did this one already. Right here it closed and 99 was when it recorded. Okay. But you never know. It doesn't necessarily, it will show expireds on here as well. So maybe you tried to sell it. Maybe you're the third realtor to come in. I just try to gather any information I can before I walk into the room. Okay. So seeing that there isn't any information here, now I like to collect what all the computers think about it, all the algorithms. So I like to collect the automated valuation. So we have a handy tool here in our home valuation tool. So I go into the H suite. And I just put all this information next to each other. All right. Click into the BMA and simply put in the address. 8 Henry Circle Rochester. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for lots of data points. The more data points we have, the closer we're going to be on our pricing. So we're looking for anomalies and stuff. So verifying it's 3-bed, 1-bath, 1,088, despite the homeowner, because he had the listing from Nagel in 1999 at my meeting yesterday, who said it was 1,200. Well, it's at around 1,200 square feet. So he didn't like that I told him it was only 1,088. Confirm that it's a single family detached. All right, so now it's going to give me 4 more valuations. Now, if you're using this as part of your analysis or as a first look or a way to drum up business, you can only select 3 to send out. If I were to, unfortunately, I like, so you can see there's one that's an anomaly at 184, right? The others are all in the 150s. I don't print any of this or any of that. I just write down all those valuations. So I collect all of this data here.
Did he have a number in his head before you met with him?
Well, just because the ranch across the street sold at 198, that's why he wanted to start at that number. So, sorry, Kathy's calling me here.
No, go ahead. We'll take an intermission. Anybody want snacks, coffee?
I'm okay. So.
All right. All right. Let me just double check over here because. Chelsea thought she might be able to pop in. All right, anyway. All right, so I collect all of this data here. So then there's one, what's the site that everybody goes to look at for their house?
Zillow.
Zillow, absolutely. So why not check it out? Now, I've also wondered, am I doing something, is this going to trigger some sort of, somebody looked at it, so maybe it goes to one of their agents to call the homeowner and find out, I don't know, but I'd like to think that that's not going to happen because I already have an appointment, I already have a relationship. So I'm going to go in here. All right, so they've got it at 175.4. Okay, the other cool thing is it gives me a picture here. So I'll take a snapshot of that and throw it in my CMA so that I'm ready for that later. So now I've got all of my buy side values here, 151, 53, 57, 184, and 175. So we're kind of all over the map. They all use different algorithms. They all use different things. Now, the biggest thing about automated valuation models is they can't take into consideration condition. So they're gonna, take an average condition. So they're gonna undervalue some properties and they're gonna overvalue others. That's why they need us to go into the house. That's why they need us to take pictures of all these other lists and say, you don't have the granite countertops, you have Formica. You have knotty pine cabinets. You don't have new cabinets with slow close drawers, because those are gonna be big deals for the way buyers are. And it's not about passing judgment. It's about what do buyers want to see. We're marketing, right? I got a text from him this morning. He's like, oh, by the way, it's a 10 gauge steel sink. So it'll right, exactly. So it can have a disposal on it. I'm like, nobody really cares about that.
I was going to say, I got to think and.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly. All right. So now I've got my BMA and H Suite. I've got the Zillow's estimate. So I kind of have a little bit of a preconceived idea of what I'm looking for my data. But more than trying to find out what that landing price is, I'm going to use it as a way to eliminate anomalies. Is this house worth 225? Is it worth 125? Right. So it's going to give me kind of a general idea. So and again, my style is in my CMA, I give the average of all the AVMs together. And I give that same disclaimer. It's not taking into account anything having to do with condition. So that gives me one number. Okay. All right. So then the next step in the process is now we go over to the matrix. Okay. And we're just going to start a new residential search. And this is where the art comes into it, is trying to decipher what's a good comp, what's not. Now, the great thing about this property is it's in gates. There's 50 houses on the block, and they're going to probably have similar models. In fact, 4 houses in a row are all exactly the same model. No changes, no mirror image. They're all exactly the same. Okay. But it also depends on when in time they were sold, right? Okay. Now, if you're out at a more rural property, that's really going to get arty because then you might have to make some accommodations based on age, square footage, location, how much land. There's a lot of components, and I have that further down in my notes here. But for beginners' sake, let's just take this into account. Okay, so main search criterion. So status over here on the top, active, continue to show, under contract, pending, close. We want to know what the status is of what's going on, because we're going to look at pending. We're going to see how many things are under contract. We're going to see what's active so we can communicate to our potential seller. Well, there's not a lot out here, so if we're the shiny penny, you know, we're going to get a lot of attention. Or if there's 15 houses like mine out there, we really have to take consideration of the condition in order in our price. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is going over the status. Then home style. I think that's the next most thing. We're not gonna, you have to put apples to apples, right? So one floor living ranch house is not like a colonial. It's a different type of demographic. We all know ranches are the most expensive houses to build. Do you know why, Tyler?
Yeah, because of, it's that much more material which is going up.
It has to do with the footprint, right? So the basement, if on a ranch, if you want one floor living and you want to get bigger, you have to have a bigger footprint, which means more roof line, which means more basement, more block, more digging, all of that, more land setbacks, all of that, versus colonial stick building, you go up, right? It's cheaper to build up than out. Good. All right. So, all right, we've picked our style of ranch. Then square footage is kind of the next thing I look. So we're at 1088. There's two things to consider. Rule of thumb is usually plus or minus 300 square feet. But the other thing you have to take into account are what are these levels? And that's what I put here. Be mindful of size levels and search criteria. Some people are going to search up to 1,500 square feet, or they're going to search under 2,000 square feet. And every buyer's different. The more people you work with, that's going to change. So when taking that into account, again, you want to, if you're within 300 square feet either way, you can extrapolate that between, you know, listings if you're having fewer of them, because you're not going to find one necessarily that has 1,088. Okay, so in the square footage over here on the right, if we're at 1088, I don't think there's any reason to go down to a 700 square foot house, because that's really small. So I want to make sure I get at least under 1,000 square feet. And my gut would be to go to 1,500 square feet, even though that's much bigger. So I'm just going to stick to the rule. We'll go to 1,350. And you always want to keep an eye on down here. Okay, we got 5,000 matches, so that's more we're going to look through, right?
No, not yet, because it didn't quite enter yet on your square footage.
Oh yes, but remember,
Oh,
this is searching everything in the unit system,
Okay.
right? Right. So now we're going to look at age of home. Again, the rule of thumb for this is generally 5 years either way. So if it was built in 1972, I'd go from 68 to 77. But again, there are categories and brackets, if you will, for age of homes too. Pre-World War II, you know, and again, you can get into other brackets down there. Is it a historical home and all of that? But I generally say before World War II. Okay, post-World War II, you've got, you know, late 40s into the 60s, into the 50s. Then you kind of have the 60s to 70s where you see a lot of those ranches pop up. See a lot of Cape Cods in the 45 to 60 bracket. Then in the 60s, you start seeing the, you know, the 1,200 square foot ranches. And then you start seeing the split levels in the late 60s, 70s. And then we're back to a lot of colonials and that sort of thing in the 80s and so on and so forth. So there's lots of different brackets that you come. So for this house, it was built in 57, right? So we can look 1953 to 1962. All right. So now we're down to 2,000 matches. Now the biggest factor, especially when dealing with mortgages, is they're going to want to see comps close to the subject property.
I was just going to say mine would be a real challenge.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of if a appraisal were to be challenged, the first words out of the lender's mouth are always find me closer comps within usually 1 mile, right?
Yep.
Which I hate because on a rural property,
You're driving.
right? You know,
There might not be one in one.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm looking back, and it's been a long time since I bought my house, but even back then, because of the size of my house and it's historic, they went to Medina Brockport and Geneseo as comps.
So they
Because
were
village,
willing
you know,
to
was
do
the
that.
village setting.
Mhm.
Would that fly to the appraisal? Probably not, because of the distance.
Yeah,
to
and
those
see, that
comps.
makes,
Yeah.
it's so silly.
Well, I don't think I could get a conventional appraisal in my house today for that exact reason.
Yeah.
It's not a good time to be unique, put it that way.
All right, so now we have an age of our home, so we're looking for the geographical area. And this is where knowing areas matters. How are buyers looking at houses? A lot of times, what do you think is the number one reason people move to a specific area?
School districts.
School district. So that, to me, is a big factor, is the school district.
And that's a good factor to use when you're fighting value on an appraisal. And we see that a lot once you get out of the suburbs, depending on where the comps were. If they've gone to a different school district for the comps, it's easier to make a case for maybe using a comp that's a little older that's in the same school district, because that's why they picked this house.
Right.
That matters.
So the thing about around here, school districts go over township lines. So like I live in the town of Greece, but it's Hilton Schools, which is not normal around the country. Usually school districts are by county. So whenever I talk to my brother who lives in Virginia and he's talking about, you know, Fairfax County, Virginia, and all those, that's how they do their municipalities. Around here, the fact that they go over township lines is like out of people's minds. So for our subject property, we're in the Gates Tri district. So, but not all the time will that work, right? And it depends on the location. So there are other search criteria you would look to. Sometimes it's by zip code. So when I started this, I like, again, general, take a wide, you know, swath, right? And then filter down as you go, because that I want you to look at as many properties as you can. So if we just put in Gates Tri, we still have 42 matches, right? So how can we filter that down more? I actually started with the zip code, because in some of those areas, the zip codes are interesting. But again, zip codes, they go over school districts, they go over towns. So again, how can we hone in on that a little more? So school district, or the zip, 14624. All right, so that got us down to 34 instead of the school district. But can I filter it down more now by adding the school district back in? Now I'm down to 25. So both of those fall into the category. So that shrunk it down even more. Okay. So then those are usually the categories. I say to, and again, this is my philosophy, I say to avoid putting in beds and baths at this point, because we don't know how many data points. I want to get to a point where I'm taking a look at them first. Because maybe we can overlook a half a bath, or we could say, well, that half a bath that you don't have brings the price down a little bit. You know, so I want to have as much data as possible, but not so much that I can't filter through it. So the next thing I like to do is I like to jump on it and take a look at the map. All right. So our subject property is, oh boy.
Is it the orange? I think go down to the bottom more.
I don't know why this is so narrow.
Right there on the bottom, is that it?
No, it's up over in here.
Oh, is it the green one?
It's right here, because this is the subject house here. I don't have the subject house in, so that's another way to look too, is if we're worried about within circumference of it. So there, as we look at this map, they're still all over the place. Now, is this one up here a good comp for one that's down in here, closer to the airport, Chi-Li Ave over here? This is a different area. This is a different area. So again, if there are comps closer, let's start with those. So let's filter them out. So this is a great tool to use here. The map search. So within, let's start with a mile of, and then you can put the subject property in there. 8 Henry Circle. Enough information, less is better. All right, so now we've limited it to within. Now we're down to 10 matches here. So let's go back to the map. All right, so now we're within that 1 mile of what banks might like. And again, now we've got it filtered down to a number of houses we can spend some time looking through for condition. So now we're not searching through a pile of stuff. Okay? All right, so we got within 1 mile. Let's take a look at our results here. Here's our list. Now, I've set mine up to have custom stuff here. I like to know the ratio of every house. I like to know when it's sold. I like to know the terms of sale. So those are some categories that
So
I
are those
added.
list and sold prices that I'm seeing there, those 2 columns?
Correct.
Mhm.
Original list price and where it's sold. So this doesn't take into account any adjusted prices if they overpriced and moved down, but it will in totality, just not if they had a price reduced and then got a deal.
And do you have a way to determine which ones have been updated?
Right. So that's the next step. Is now we're at 10. What I do next is I take a general idea. Okay, I looked at what the AVM said. We're somewhere between 150 and 180 on the AVMs. Looking at sale prices, okay, these are all realistic for that. This one, this 99, which is the only one that's active. Okay, let me take a look at it. Does that look anything like our subject house? Not in terms of setup or condition. Like if I take a look through it, I mean, it's not stellar condition. It's not terrible, but I don't necessarily see it as a comp for our house. Okay, so I can already rule that one out. So an easy way to do that is it works kind of diverse. Select the ones you want to keep. So I'm going to unselect that one. You refine, narrow. Okay, now it's gone. So the next thing I do in the process is I literally go through each one, and I will pick this one because this is the one on the same street. This is 7 Henry, so it's directly across the street. So I'm going to pop in. Now we're going to assess condition a little bit. Okay, so that looks like the wood siding on it. It's not updated vinyl, right? 1-car garage. You know, landscaping, it's okay. Nothing to write home about, but it's clean, right? Okay, great pictures. Pictures matter, right? Look at it, got nice hardwood floors, look like they might have been redone. Okay, modern paint, modern furnishings, which again isn't necessarily going to determine the house's value, but when we're talking with sellers, remember we're doing a CMA. This house got this number possibly because really great pictures and it's staged appropriately. Okay. All right, so we're looking in here. It looks like, I don't know what type of floor it is. That might be a vinyl floor. It might be stone. I'm not entirely sure. But that's a stone countertop with an undermount sink. It has an updated backsplash. Now, these cabinets, I can tell you because I was in the subject house the other day, this is an original cabinet that's been painted because it has that end on it. Okay. Stainless steel appliances. This is a really nice kitchen. Okay, they go from the kitchen to the backyard. Okay, so it's got a patio, fenced in backyard. Now we're back to the front. And now we're back in the house. Okay. But again, it looks like it's in really nice condition. Again, walking through a house is always going to be a better way to ascertain condition. But again, we can only go by what we can see in pictures at this point, unless you're going to go knock on the neighbor's house. Okay.
Oh, finished
So,
basement.
so now we've got a fully finished basement. Our subject house does not. It does not have an updated kitchen. It doesn't even have painted cabinets.
Oh, then he's
Has that
dreaming.
sink
It's
though?
dreaming. What's that?
Got that sink though?
Got that
That's
steel
worth
set, right?
$10,000 there.
Now he's done a lot of what I call the non-sexy items. So the sink would fall into that. It's got a new furnace in it. So but that's good because that adds a lot of value. But he's got like leaf guards. He's got like $10,000 leaf guards,
Oh,
which again is a huge cost to him, but not one for sale, right? He's put in some new windows. That's a good upgrade, but again, it's not a sexy item, right? It's not countertops and floor.
Well, there's a lot of things that you can spend a lot of money on that don't give you value.
Absolutely.
One of our recent appraisal challenges was a new build where they incorporated a $100,000 swimming pool. Like, yeah, big problem.
Yeah.
What did they add on for that? Because back in the day, it used to be 5,000 would be a house, 20,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right. Now, the subject property has a giant deck, which he did just paint. So and he's got one on the front. Now, interesting factor, and I'll get into this in a minute, is that his wife, who I guess has passed, was disabled. So the house has a ramp in the front, a ramp in the back. The bathroom is zero entry shower into it. So there's a lot of accessible items to it. So adds value to a certain demographic, but not necessarily to everybody else.
Everybody else is gonna wanna pull a ramp off, and that's cost.
Yep.
Mhm.
So again, this has pluses and minuses, but again, in terms of the age, square footage, location, I see this as a comp. But this is going to be, and then you kind of categorize your comps, and I have that in here too. I think it's on the back page. Sift through the photos of each listing condition, simple 3-step scale. Keep it simple, because sometimes I get into a rabbit hole here and I'm like 1+ or a 2-, and then I create this whole hierarchy and it loses its simplicity. So this is a cherry. This is updated, clean, well cared for. So this is a 3. My my seller after being in the house is probably a 2. You know, it needs some updates, but it's clean, it's solid, and it has, you know, a lot of things going for it, but it needs some help. So I don't think it's going to get to this price. Because again, if I'm a buyer's agent, I'm trying to price out a house and where it's going to end up, and I'm going to look at this and I'm just going to say, just from the photos, this house is much nicer. I'm not going to that number. But depends on what's happening in the market at that time. Where are interest rates? Where is inventory?
And a ranch is a plus.
And a ranch is a plus. And maybe it's an older couple looking for first a living with the potential to have a wheelchair access. So there's a lot of factors. So you don't want to be too quick to just write it off. Okay. So I'm going to keep this as a comp. All right. So I can unselect that, and I'm going to keep this one here.
Martini need to conduct an insert service line inspection and gas on, and access to the basement.
Okay. So then I'll just work our way down the list here. All right, 28 Wedgewood. So taking note, listed at 174.9, which is where my seller wants to be, and he got 188 out. I'm pretty sure I used this as a comp, so he potentially used it as, I don't remember if this is one, I don't think so, but
Does your subject property have
Has-
vinyl siding?
has vinyl siding,
It does, okay.
newer vinyl siding, yep. But it's a 1-car garage, this is a 2-car garage, so there's a little give and take there.
Ooh,
Landscaping
windows.
is okay, yeah. All right, coming inside, you know, that's freshly, looks freshly painted. What is it with people going in and outside? When you put in listing photos, make it as though you're walking through the property. So maybe you start outside, you walk around the property, you come in the front door and do the photos as though you're walking through the house. This whole jumping around, it's hard to keep things in your head.
Photographer that, they usually start upstairs. So then you gotta turn them all around.
Oh. All right, so here we go. Updated flooring, updated cabinetry, updated countertops, undermount sink. Again, it's the same square footage, the same size as our kitchen, but again, you know, it's just completely backsplash. This is a beautiful kitchen.
So I've never listed a house. So when you meet with him, are you showing him all of these?
Yep.
I know you want this, but here's why.
Yeah, and again, he goes to the quality of items. You know, he's talking about the fact that the kitchen cabinets, you know, it's that traditional, original knotty pine. And these are solid wood cabinets as opposed to that particle board that just has a face on it. What's that?
He's not wrong.
Right, but again, we are trying to, as real estate agents, market to the widest audience.
Right.
These 2 houses are going to market to that wider audience.
Correct.
And when you're showing him your comps, do you show him right where it's got the sales price, list price, and then the pictures?
So it has, again, I use my presentation, I print it out, and it has comparable number 1. It has all the data, and then it goes right through the photos. So we go right through and take a look at the kitchen and all that. Here's where they started, here's where they ended up.
I do mine a little different. Like if I think I got a challenging client on price, I will print out the interior pictures and just have interior pictures and sit down with them and have them say, now, which one do you think looks most like your house? And have them print it out and then go back and pull the list. Okay, that was only 160. I didn't.
And that's why I walk in and sometimes if I'm not sure where I want to be, I ask the
Yeah.
person, what do you think the house is worth or what are you looking to get out of it? So that way it gives me a little bit of information of how to have that approach. Now this came as a referral. I didn't know the guy. He seemed really kind of, hey, come over and sign the paperwork. Let's get this done sort of guy. So I didn't think he was going to be overly challenging, and he wasn't. But he's in that mindset of I want 185 out of it, so I'll put it at 190. He's in that old school thought. So he's just going to need some time to understand. I got him down to 175 as a listing price right now. So that's in the ballpark. But I told him, I said, we can't, in this market, we can't underprice a house. If we put it at $120,000, people are going to see value in it and take it to where the market says it should be. If we put it at $200,000, the reconditioned buyers are going to think, I got to go 30% over. This house isn't worth $250,000.
Nor will it appraise.
Nor will it appraise, of course. So.
Yeah, I got a question. Now, when you
Yeah.
search for your comps by map,
Mhm.
most of the comps that came up are like almost a year old, the closing.
Right.
So
So,
if you wanted to get more recent ones, you would have to search a different way, wouldn't you?
so yes, back here looking at the criteria, the
Yeah.
default is going back a year.
Right.
And right now, yes, you want to look in the last 90 days stereotypically, but again, we weren't having a whole lot of closings. So my default right now is to go back and take a look at some of these last year, because if they're closing at 198 last year, thinking of market appreciation, that would be like a 205 or a 210 this year.
Right.
So I don't want to.
Like something that was maybe a little bit more than a mile away, that could be more,
Right.
more similar to that house.
Right, more similar,
closed.
newer, but
Yeah.
further away. And that's just it, is it's
Right.
all a sliding scale of what you put on a value. Do you put a value on finding the same home in the same neighborhood that's older, or finding a similar home that's more recently sold? And I think they tell us two things. One tells us what's happening currently in the market, and one's telling us the value of a specific home. So I start with this and then I work my way out. But yes, that's a great point. It used to be we come in, all right, look at the last 90 days. But again, there haven't been, I mean, just the number of closings is down 80% in our area in the last 8 years. Since 2015, it's 80% of closings. So it's crazy. Right. All right. So going back to our results here, I think that's a decent one, possibly. Again, you just kind of got to go through and look at all of them here. All right. So this one's set up a little bit differently, in terms of floor plan. Okay. A little bit more square as opposed to that wide, but it is a one-car garage, but it has a wider driveway. And again, the one across the street's a direct comp except for condition, right? Now we're planning to play the game of, okay, this one has one car, but it's a wider driveway. This one's got set up differently. So we just kind of take a look and see what's going on with it. Okay, it's got carpets in it, but it looks like it's freshly painted, really well staged. I think the most difficult thing for my seller is he doesn't value the same things that most buyers value today.
He probably wouldn't pick this house for his style. He'd probably pick the Brady Bunch house.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Ooh, that's some color.
That is some color,
Wow.
but the floors
But it's kind of
in good
refreshing
shape.
after looking at gray houses.
Noticing the countertop, this does not look, that looks like it's Formica to make it
Formica.
look like stone.
Oh, wait, go back. That is stone.
I don't know.
Oh, look at the back, the way it pieces together in the back. Is it two pieces or one?
No, it looks like it's one to me. Yeah, that
Is
looks
it one?
like, that
Okay,
looks
yeah,
like a
it's
curve to me.
Formica. I think those are the old cabinets painted white.
They might be.
Yeah, the old
And he does have a new countertop, relatively new countertop. It's just blue and
Formica.
Formica. But again, I'm not going to tell him to go. I'm not trying to tell him he needs to go put in new countertops, because that's a prohibitive expense that won't come back to him necessarily in sale, because stone is so expensive right now. All right, bathroom looks completely updated. New cabinet, new toilet, nice floors. Looks like
Tile
this.
surround.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this has a nice little sun porch, so that's gonna add value.
Ooh,
Basement
Go back.
laundry. Whoop.
stress crack.
Looks relatively updated. They're not original. Looks like they have another half bath in the basement. So this is another really clean house. Okay. All right. So, you know, it may be, we'll keep looking. Let's go to the next one. Another one with stone, new cabinets, new floors.
Well, all these houses are just kind of sweet inside.
Mm-hmm.
All these columns.
They look like they have the same stager,
Yeah.
Yeah, the grays and the kitchens.
but they don't really look occupied, do they?
Mm-mm.
No garage.
It's like the old aluminum siding, maybe. Can't
It
tell.
might be, yeah. It's a pretty house. It doesn't have the garage and it's
That would be
really
a hard
updated.
stop
So
for me.
yeah, so I'm gonna not include that one.
Oh,
All right, this one looks like the same model of the house that we've been in, right? Updated kitchen.
How's his floors? Pretty good?
He did have new floors in the kitchen and living room and a different kind in the hallway, which is a little bit clunky. Now, he's done the paint and he's painted all the trim white. He's freshening things up. The bedrooms have the original flooring in it, and they're not in bad shape. It's just not at this level, you know? The bathroom has a little tiny corner sink, and it has the zero entry here. It has a separate door into the master bedroom or the primary bedroom because she had care workers that would come and they wouldn't have to come out into the hallway and around. So there are some of those. I think that's going to end up being the biggest selling point of it. It doesn't have a sunroom like this. It does have a patio, but it has a huge deck on the back.
Oh, finished basement.
No finished basement ours. Again, I like this as a comp, but again, this is a 3, not a 2. So we'll include that one.
It's three bedrooms?
Yes.
And from an appraisal standpoint, if it's a 1 or 2 bedroom, 2 of the primary comps have to have the same bedroom.
Oh, really?
That's good.
I didn't
Good
know
to know.
I didn't know that either. Awesome.
Aren't you glad I came?
I'm always glad when you come. All right, this looks like a sunroom off the back too. Come on, give me something that looks dated.
Oh, there we go.
Carpet, but it looks like it might
Linoleum. That's open. That's good.
That's kind of interesting. Now, he is planning on being moved out, so his house will be empty. So I think it's kind of good and bad because his stuff is not attractive. So in this instance, I'm happy that it'll be empty. But again, this is still like a little bit nicer.
Grab bars. There you
We
go.
got a corner shower.
Well, we're getting closer for
This
Tom.
has first floor laundry. Ours is basement.
Julian, this is probably your deposit.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Finished basement. I want to ask Tyler what that is. Again, I mean, this has a little bit of datedness to it, but the other thing is, it has full windows, and our subject property has the high windows except for the living room.
They look like old windows though, too.
Yeah. 149 wants to do, this is the pricing I think he should be doing.
Yeah.
1,100 square foot,
I'll let her know when you receive that.
Tony Greenhouse.
You back?
Well, I'm not finding what I need.
You all right?
No, wait.
All
It's okay.
in between these two buildings.
That's fine.
Wall.
So ideally, how many comps do you want to have in your final presentation?
Well, I like to have as many as possible. I think you can over inundate people if you put too much in there, because then it's just too much. I would not go in with fewer than 3. I think 3 to 5 is an appropriate number.
Okay.
So, this one, that looks kind of like ours as well, wider driveway. Oh, we got more grease, original, this one's definitely professionally staged. It's got the flooring, kitchen setup significantly different than ours, and it has newer, and it has a bonus room out the back, so even though it's nice, I'm throwing that one out because I don't think that's close enough count. Okay, this one looks kind of similar. But, well, it's a completely different setup. Newer kitchen. The only thing I like about this one is it's probably a lower selling price. It's close in square footage. Limited sell. And it's from last summer. Most of them are from last summer. Oh yes, the main Cusa is on this one.
It's not a bad house. A little dated throughout.
Yeah. I mean, it has the first floor laundry here. Kitchen setup is a little bit, it's more open, newer cabinets. So again, this is a 3 and we're still at 2. So it's hard to go in with a whole bunch of comps. All right, this is the right house, but the finishes are so much nicer in your house because all he's going to say is, well, I've got quality here. They don't have the leaf guards. They don't have the, all this other non-sexy items, right? All right.
See, now my husband would be excited about the leaf guards.
Yeah, my dad too. We got leaf guards too.
Well, the problem
I
is
was too, but I wouldn't pay for it.
I'll just still 2,000 for them.
he's paid $10,000 he still owes. And
Oh my God.
he's got, but he had the tree removed. So now there's no reason. Like it was it was a big
Okay,
ash
so in
tree.
case another tree grows really fast, they're prepared. Okay.
In 40
Oh,
years.
holy
it'll be
cow.
another tree.
All right, this one has more data cabinets. It's not really the setup. But condition-wise, it only has 100 amp service. Looks like this setup too. Unfinished basement. Well, kind of. I mean, I like it in terms of price point, in terms of showing condition, but I don't see that necessarily as a comparison. All right, so now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comps. So it's probably more than we really should have.
And they're ranging from what selling price?
198 to 165. So, we're still in the ballpark of what the AVMs are saying. Again, they're taking, more into the list price side than where it's ending up.
And what's your feeling like if you come up with 6 or 8 comps, of just automatically throwing out the highest and the lowest to narrow them down?
I mean, you could.
The problem is the highest is the one he sees every day out his window. So
Right.
hard for him to ignore
Exactly,
that
because
one.
that's the thing, is it's the same exact house, just not as updated. So that's the biggest thing. So again, more data points. So let's see where we land on it. So I'm going to remove these 2, at least for now, so we'll narrow it out. So I do my presentation over at Hannah Presentation. So the only thing I really need for my presentation are the R numbers, or might be a P number in there, is the MLS number. But I like to get a quick first look at what's going on here. So under the actions, you have the quick CMA. And that's going to give us it's going to crunch all the numbers for us because there's a few things I'm looking for in here. Again, you can get a side by side here. Look at the number of bedrooms. Okay, this one's only got 2 bedrooms as opposed to ours that has 3. Maybe we take that one out. I don't know. It's 2 bedrooms and it has 2 spots in the garage, right? All the other points, again, taking condition out of it, match. Right? All the others are 3 and 1. Well, here's a 3 and 2, so there's more value in it. So maybe so there's lots of things that you can do. But what this is going to do is give us 2 things: average sale price. So the average sale price is 181 of all these comps. Then I like to look at the square footage. What is the average per square foot? 160.82. Okay, so if I take that number, because that's one of the ways that I value it, is I take, what was it, 160 times our actual square footage, despite what the homeowner thinks of 1088, 174. I'm looking for continuity in numbers. So now I've got 174 per square foot, 181, those same comps in sales. So that's within 5,000. And then I've got the automated. These 150s are low. This one's right on at 184. And then the Zillow at 175. So I put all three of those different numbers in front of my client and say, this, they're varying, but they're in this group. So somewhere between, where did I go here? So somewhere between 170 and 180 is probably going to be where it lands. But again, then we go back to condition. The condition of all of these houses is significantly better. But that's an opinion. And in this case, I have a very difficult seller. So, and as I told you the other day, when you went back for a lower price for the same reason, there's no reason to lose the listing. They might just have to learn it the hard way, and it might be more difficult.
That was going to be my question, given this environment right now,
Mm-hmm.
is the pricing philosophy to start out a little below where you want to end up, or do you start at what you think is the real value?
Yeah, the philosophy is definitely to underprice so that, and I've done it both ways. I priced it at value. I did it with a ranch in Greece, and I ended up with one offer on it because everybody thought it was going to, and I asked their agents for feedback. They didn't want to pay $224 for it. We priced it at $189.9, and they wanted $190 for it. And we ended up having one offer on it.
And what they get?
They got $190 on it. But again, they were also thinking, well, everything's going for over asking. Sellers were thinking, all right, here's its value, but then people are getting all this number. They're not understanding the nuances of now agents are actually underpricing to create competition and drive up the price to where it should be. So that becomes the problem. Yeah. It's hard. Now, I thought your question was going to be is if the seller really wants the price, do you take it no matter what? And
well, that would be the next question.
Right. And to me, the answer is no, not every time. Now, there is only one time I told them I wouldn't list this house. Now, your house we think is a little overpriced for the current market conditions at 264. I think, right? This one he wants to price at 175. I think 149.9 or 159.9. I'd even do 169.9 to get to where he wants to be, right? It's a contrition to its condition, I think, in the buyer's minds. But he wants 175. I'll list it for 175, and because he's not asked. There's only one time that I've walked away and said I won't list your house because I'm not going to put my name out there with an absurd number.
Right.
175 is not an absurd number. It's an old school thought number that we're probably going to have to.
But if you said 225, you leave.
I had the only one I ever lived. I said we're too far apart. Thank you for your time, and I got up and I walked out. It was 100,000 over where the best comp that I could find. So best comp was 198 here, so almost 200. They wanted 300. I said no thanks. I said we're too far apart. There was no reason to continue the discussion. It was so far. And the house has not gone on the market. It's not like anybody else came in there and got money. And I think my house is worth more. I don't have to sell it. That's their philosophy. My seller, he's picking up and he's moving to Tennessee. He's going to move out to Tennessee to his sister's house before he puts this one on the market. So he's going to have to learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just check out the other things on here. Addressing difficult properties. So a big one, especially out this way, are houses with lots of land. So you got a two-edged problem. One, you don't have a lot of comps within close proximity, right? So you have to separate them. You have to say, what is this house worth? And see if you can find the comps for that. and then find out what land might be worth. Now, it's not, if you have vacant land of 5 acres, that's gonna be valued a little bit different than a house with 5 acres.
And there's a little bit more leeway out here, but there are still properties that are problematic from an appraisal standpoint. So I have buyers right now that called, they looked at a house in Hamlin, Moscow Road. Is this a
Vicky's
problem?
listing,
2 houses? Was it her
Yeah,
listing?
it's 2 houses with a huge outbuilding.
Huge, the outbuilding is bigger
3,000
than both
square
houses
feet.
together, and I think it's on either 5 or 7 acres.
I think it's 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so virtually a nightmare from a financing standpoint. You might get a portfolio lender that would take it, but you've got the challenge of that outbuilding, which basically they don't want to attach much value to an outbuilding. And then you've got 2 houses. So is it a 2-family? Not really, but it's 2 houses.
And that's why we've listed it as multi-family and single
But
family.
from a secondary market standpoint, the appraiser has to find something with the same configuration as a comp. What are the odds of finding a comp with two houses on one lot? I mean, in the city, we make a case for it, in the older neighborhoods, you'll find a house that's a 3-family, and then they added an apartment over the carriage barn.
Yeah.
Well, you can make a case for that because there are comps with that same configuration. This is a tough one. Yeah.
Karen, how are they doing appraisals? Like, it used to be the house and then the immediate 5 acres, and then they had more.
Excess acreage is a problem. Secondary market does not like it. Like, we've got one right now, and they have, they added an addendum. It's out in Medina. They added an addendum for the adjacent lot, and underwriting came back and said, have them remove the addendum, do a deal with the seller, separate contract. They're gonna buy that lot for $1, take it out of the equation. So that's the clean solution.
So, but if it's still attached to the same tax ID, like if you're buying a house on 20 acres.
Only if the comps support it. So, you get into the outer areas, maybe 15 to 20 acres is not uncommon, but you've got to be able to support it with comps. 20 acres is really, that's up there. 10 to 12 acres, usually not a big deal because you're in a market where that's pretty typical. But anything over than that, then they start worrying. And the other thing that's a deal breaker on a property is if somebody's got, a nice colonial and it's on 35 acres and they've leased 25 to the farmer down the road, secondary market will not take that one. So if it's leased, we better not find out about it, and there should be nobody cutting hay out there when the appraiser comes out.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know, because
Well, because now it's a business. If they've leased it out to a farmer, now it's agricultural, and it's a business, and it's a whole other animal. Yeah.
Oh.
I wouldn't want to be an appraiser today.
Other difficult projects, house and waterfront. You take a 1,600 square foot house in the village of Hilton, and you're looking at, I don't know, maybe 180 to 225 depending on condition. Even if it's in great condition, maybe 250, right? That same house up on the lake just sold for over 500. It's amazing with waterfront. So when you're pulling comps for waterfront, you really need to have other waterfront, because yes, your instinct is to take that house in the village and use it as comp, and what value does the waterfront add? But it can't really put a number on it. So it's really hard to find. And then the type of water, is it littoral? Is it riprap? Is it a stream or is it standing water? Is it, Lake Ontario? Is it a finger lake?
And how much of the value is in the lot as opposed to the structure?
Right.
I've got a buyer without an agent that surfaces every 6 months, wants a little second home on water. I tried to push her to somebody here. She was looking at a house on Lake Ontario. I think it's a Kent address, but the house is smaller than the garage, and it's been all redone inside like a cabin, but it's all open. Well, there's no bedroom. There's a sleeping area. From an appraisal standpoint, there's no bedroom. Call the buyer, I go, this is not your house. Plus it's on a double lot on the lake. So now you've got huge value in that lot, tiny little, I think 820 square foot house with 1,000 square foot garage.
Sounds like a perfect property for me.
What if you can't find that many other waterfront comps that are from like around this time frame? Like how far back? I mean,
Right,
how
so
long-
that's the other question, is the sliding scale of, do you look further away or you look back further in time? my gut is to look back in time because we know how, and I could be completely wrong. This is what my gut's saying, is to stay close to where you are and look back in time. And then I take that number and I look at the market appreciation for that
But
area.
doesn't the appraiser then do an adjustment for time?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I would go back in time further. So again, so if this house on the lake that I'm thinking of, next closest comp is from 2015. Well, the market's significantly changed. Now, I don't know that they go back, but what has the market done? If it's in Hilton, what is Hilton's appreciation been? Again, it's not math, it's not scientific, it's a bit artful.
Mhm.
You're doing your best guess because any given day, any appraiser is going to come up with it. It's like when you have an FHA appraisal. It depends on the appraiser what they're going to choose to make, an issue about. So there's no hard and fast. It is, and that's where you get into discussions with sellers, you get into discussion with buyers, you get into discussions with appraisers and say, here's how we arrived at this. And if you can show them the train of thought or say, well, I got 10 offers of 500,000. How did you get to that number to begin with? Well, here's this house and it sold for 374 in 2015. And we take that and you see the market appreciation that's happened. We easily get to 500,000. The appraiser's gonna be like, okay, maybe that's a good thought process. Give them the line of thinking, not just we think it's 500,000.
Where do you find the market appreciation for like each area?
Well, that's a whole CMA too. But again, you can come here and hear market stats, and there's all sorts of demographics that you can get from here. Market review and single family. Let's just go to Monroe County. Okay, I'm gonna take out select all, and we're gonna put in. Am I gonna do Hilton Village? We'll do Parma, town of Parma. So, and then I can go back as far as they're tracking here. And you might have to go in a few different times to find stuff, but it's gonna give you a years here. So that house, all right, 2017, median sales price is 190, right? Then we come back to today, 280.
Oof.
Right? So you can get a lot of data in here, and that's the specific mark. I can go down a rabbit hole with this, and that's one of the CMA or one of the brunches where we're going to play around with this stuff to find that.
Where did you find it?
Market stats right here, market
Oh,
stats.
okay.
And I don't like the new system like the old one. The old one was through Showing Time, which got bought out by Zillow, so we disassociated from them. But there's weekly trends. You'll recognize this if you watch my Monday Minute, because this is where I get my trends here. And there's all sorts of filters. You can pick specific areas. Again, for the purposes of our meetings, I keep it to the three counties where we generally do business. Wide view. If you want to look at what's happening in a specific area, you can do it here. A specific zip code. There's lots of ways to find all of that data here to help support what you're looking for. And as Mark Twain said, there are lies, there are damn lies, and then there are statistics. So you can make the statistics say what you want to support what you're looking for. Let me just see if there's any other things on here. Take a look at the criteria: 3 versus 4 bedroom, 1.5 versus 2 baths. What other attributes does a subject property or a comparable property have? Pools, in-ground versus above ground. Technically, above ground pools are personal property. In-ground pool is real property. Medium and small outbuildings. Again, I wrote medium and small because I was also thinking of Vicky's property. A 3,000 square foot outbuilding is going to be valued differently than somebody who has, a 200 square foot barn they put their mower and something into, or even a 400 square foot, extra two car garage. Decks. My seller on our subject property here it is a large, significant deck. It is permitted. It is painted. It is in good shape. It is nice. That's one of the best features of the house. So that's going to add some significant value, where it'll make up some value there where it might not have in other places. Plus, it has a ramp. The back one, which is big, and the one in the front of the house is also big. Fenced in yard, not a huge lot of value, but if you're comparing houses that all have fenced in yards,
Haven't just paid for one, that's big for me.
well, right now fences are absurdly expensive,
I don't
especially
even go there.
vinyl fence, vinyl or chain link.
Chain link.
Oh,
Like during COVID, a lot of people adopted dogs.
Yep,
And they all
including
have
this family. Generator, other unique items. I think I've hit everything on my notes page. I didn't really follow it straight ahead, but hopefully if you kind of go through in the order, like I said, this is the way I do it. It doesn't necessarily mean this is the only way to do it. But some people, they just look at me and they're like, how do I find comps? You know, how do you know what right comps are? And that's my last thoughts.
Well, and
Remember,
it's really important for you to understand how to get comps, because if there is an appraisal shortfall, you know, after we call our buyer, the next phone call is to the agent. What'd you use for comps? Can you find us newer, better, closer comps? Because we're X number of dollars away. And I called agents who are just dumbfounded, and that lets me know that they didn't comp it before they wrote the offer for their buyer, and they don't have the slightest idea what I'm asking for. And the only way to help get that value up is, you know, the appraisers are all about data, so we've got to provide data.
and appraisers don't usually like it when you go, if you're a listing agent, they don't usually like it when you're there, but I'm always there, and I always have
Provide the comps.
my comps sitting out there so they can choose it. And they always take a look at them because they've looked at comps before they went and looked at the house. Of course they have. Okay, we have the same comps. We're going to be great on this. And honestly, there's just something about that face-to-face too that makes a big difference. If they like you, they're going to bust their butt to get to meet the value. And remember, you're in the same bed as the buyers at that point. You both want the house to appraise. So remember, there's no one right way. It's a bit of an art form. Never be too certain about the price, okay? Because we can be wrong, and there are many variables. Give a range. Never say your house is worth $175. I always give. I used to give a $10,000 range. I've gotten into giving $15,000 range. You know, so hopefully that you found something of value in taking a look at all of these things here.
Adam, you remember that house that you showed me the first day that I came in after I signed up? And
We went out and looked at 3 houses, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first one on Lake Road,
Yes.
they put like a huge fence all around that property. It's massive,
In the front yard too?
just from the back and all the way back. I drove by yesterday and I was like, it is gorgeous. It's ginormous. Someone bought it.
That house.
Wood fence, a really, really big wood fence all around. How much would that cost? A lot of money, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about